What's up, guys? Welcome back to another tutorial on the channel. I have quite a few people that ask me about rhythm and how do I get certain rhythms with my drums and get them to fit and make sense to the listener. Sometimes when you're watching a producer create amazing hi-hat patterns, we may do it so fast to where it loses you and you don't really pick up exactly what we're trying to follow in our heads, or you can't make too much sense of it. So what I'm going to do with this video is try and give you guys a three-part concept that you guys can lock into, and maybe it'll shed some light on what's happening whenever you see that being done. The first is going to be rhythm. The second is the groove. And the third is accents. As simple as these are, they make a great impact when it comes down to providing some type of rhythm to your patterns. I'm going to show you how simple they are, and I'm going to show you what happens when you learn how to apply all three of them inside of your patterns. But before we get into the good stuff, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and also hit that bell notification so you don't miss out on any more of the content that I have that's coming to this channel just like this. Let's jump inside of Ableton Live. We're going to check out these three different concepts, and I'm going to show you how they apply to your beat making. Let's get it. Okay, my people, we are inside Ableton Live, and for the purpose of this tutorial, I have a project that's already pulled up, and this is a beat that I made a while back. I took out a few of the drums here, just 3 drum tracks that are going to help us with our tutorial. The first is the snare track here, the second is the hi-hat track, and the third is the orange track, which is going to be our accent track. So the snare track I took out simply because I want to show you how you can build on this, just using this as a simple structure. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead on and play the sample from the beginning. That way you guys can hear what we're dealing with, and then we're gonna jump into how we're gonna get this going. Let's check it out. Purple world. And then our actual drums are going to start right here in this section, of course. Okay, so let's jump into the tutorial. Sometimes what happens is when we're trying to understand how to put down patterns and things like that, we kind of get the terms confused, and that's what kind of sends us on this journey of doing some off-the-wall things. So let's kind of understand what's happening. We're going to address first the rhythm. A rhythm, contrary to popular belief, is not some crazy complex thing that you need to give some amazing, crazy twist and turn. The purpose of a rhythm is 2 things. Number 1, it's used to lock you into something so you can follow it very well. And number 2 is it's going to be very consistent. If you think of sports, when a basketball player gets into a rhythm of shooting, what that means is that he's becoming very consistent at what he's doing. When he comes down that court and the ball leaves his hand, you can almost guarantee that that shot is going in. And it's simply because he's formed a pattern, a rhythm of doing something over and over, very fluent, and now it's become like clockwork. And the good thing about it is we're all following exactly that rhythm that he has because of that shot that keeps going in. So if we use that same exact concept and we apply it to the rhythm of our hi-hats, we don't want to do anything crazy. We just want to make sure that we understand 2 things. We have to make sure that we follow it, that the listener can follow it, and that anything that's happening with it, it gives a consistent pattern. Here's the funny thing. Did you know that the first rhythm that you pay attention to in your software is this rhythm right here? Yes, the metronome is a rhythm. Think about our definition. It is something for you to follow and something that happens very, very consistently. It's something that you can lock in your mind to where you know where and what's happening in the beat at all times. Sometimes we just think that a rhythm has got to be some crazy, crazy complex thing that gets us in this motion or this thing that's happening. But all it is just something that's happening consistently that locks a person in to exactly what's going on. So we're going to use the next simple rhythm that happens in your beat as a guide. That next simple rhythm after the metronome is, of course, the snare. As simple as that rhythm may be, it is still a rhythm because it locks you in and it gives you something to follow to where you can create around it. Okay, so let's go. For all of these drum sounds, we're going to use the Cerebral Drum Kit. I'm going to leave a link in the video description. They'll give you some awesome, amazing drums for crafting some amazing beats. So check that link in the video description and make sure you guys rock with that kit. I'm going to use snare 3 out of my Cerebral Drum Kit. Okay, so let's go ahead on and just lay down the simple snare pattern. So let's go. And then we can just repeat that over. Don't overthink this, nothing too crazy. Just lay your snare down where it goes. That way, this can give you a rhythm to follow, and now you have something that's happening consistently. Now let's jump into the hi-hats. Okay, so we know the consistent rhythm that happens with the hi-hats in your average trap beat is the two-step hi-hat. As simple as they are and as non-complex as they may be, those hi-hats follow a simple rhythm that allows you to do one, follow it, and number two, it now creates a consistency that's happening. We're not going to deviate from that concept. All we're going to do is lay down that simple two-step rhythm. And remember, as simple of a rhythm as this is, it is still a rhythm nonetheless. No different than your snare that we laid down and no different than the metronome that you follow. That's so simple. So let's go on and lay down this simple two-step pattern, and then we're going to get into what we're going to do with it. All we're going to concern ourselves with is the first 4 bars. So 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. That's all we're going to pay attention to, simply because this is going to build the rest of our patterns. Now, everybody out there is looking at this rhythm and saying, that's so simple, so basic. Oh my God. Not complex at all. That's exactly how you want to start off your rhythm. It gives you something very simple and consistent to follow. Now you can start doing a few things with it. Now here's where the magic happens, getting into our second part, which is the groove. See, the difference in a rhythm and a groove is now found inside of a rhythm. So it's something that you can find that's buried inside of that rhythm that now starts to give it some type of movement. Understanding the meaning of these things will now start to clear up what you can do with them when it comes down to creating. So first we looked at that rhythm as something that just locks us in, and it now allows us a consistency to follow. And now we're going to look at this groove as something that's now inside of that consistent thing that we are following, that rhythm. So with the hi-hat pattern, we lay down our hi-hats that's on this note right here, C3. Okay, so anything below that will be pitched down, and anything above that will be pitched higher. So we're going to use our bottom section to get our groove going. So let's remember the key point of what we're doing with this groove, to put something inside of this simple rhythm that now gives us some type of movement that's happening. So to understand more about what I'm saying, we're going to go ahead on and mute these hi-hats. To do that, all you do is just make sure that your pattern is selected, all of your MIDI notes, and then you hit the 0 key, and it's going to mute whatever MIDI notes that you select. So we don't want to hear that at all. We want to hear our snare. Ableton has a feature to where any track you click on up here, any MIDI track, it will now put it in focus down here. So if I click on my hi-hat track, it'll be in focus down there. If I click on my snare track, it'll be in focus down here, ready for me to create. But you can also have 2 tracks highlight at the same time. So if I click on one, which is my snare, and then I hold control and click on the next one, which is my hi-hat pattern, now I can see my hi-hat pattern and also my snare all in focus. So that's just a little tip for you guys. If I wanted to grab another one, I can hold control and grab my orange track here, and it'll also put that in focus. In between a snare, we have one right here and we have one right here. You have this space right here in between those snares. We're going to use that space where we're going to put our grooves. And the reason why we're going to use this space is because it provides a very, very small window for you to make something happen. Remember, we want to get a groove inside of those hi-hats. Now, what I try and do is I try and picture that groove in my mind before I lay it down. Now, this may take a little bit of practice, but if you keep it simple, you will get into a habit of this with no problem at all. So I'll show you how simple you can keep that. Okay, we have a snare that's hitting snare, snare, snare. What I want in between those snares is snare 1, 2, 3, 4, snare, snare 1, 2, 3, 4, snare, snare 1, 2, 3, 4, snare. See that 1, 2, 3, 4? That's our groove that's happening in between the snare. And if you notice, we're putting a little bit of choppiness in it that gives it a bit of a groove. Snare 1, 2, 3, 4, snare. Snare 1, 2, 3, 4, snare. So now let's translate that idea into the software. So this is our snare. Then we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, then snare. Let's go on and do it. There it is. Snare 1, 2, 3, 4, snare. Listen to it. That that's your groove inside of your pattern. Now we're starting to introduce a groove to our simple rhythm. Listen to it one more time. And I made use of the pitching going up, down, to make sure that it follows a type of groove. You can literally customize this to whatever you hear in your mind. My suggestion is to keep it very, very simple, just like we did here, because the simpler you can keep it, that's the more you can understand the groove of what's happening. So now that we have that simple groove going, what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead on and duplicate that over to the next half. So now listen to what we have. You can now start to hear a groove that's forming inside of this. With duplicating this pattern over, we now gave ourselves spaces in between. Let's go ahead on and fill in this middle space right here, and we're going to fill in this last space right here. Being that we use 4 notes to lay down our groove, let's see if we can now just stick 2 notes in between here. Let's go high, and then let's go low here. And then at the end, we're now going to put just 2 close together. Check it out. We can even take this note and move it over. Just get creative. Now we have a groove that's happening. Now I'm going to show you what that does. We're going to go back up here and we're going to put our rhythm back in. And I want you to pay attention to how we now have a rhythm with a groove that's buried inside of it. Let's unmute our rhythm up here by pressing 0. Check this out. Our groove is now starting to form inside of our rhythm. Check this out. We're going to go ahead on and mute our groove. Let's go. We do have a rhythm there, but the groove is gone. Now let's put our groove back in. It's amazing once you understand how simple a rhythm is and how simple a groove is. And when you join those 2 things together, you can now start doing some amazing things. So now we can go ahead on and start spicing a few things up. Check this out. I can go to my rhythm up here and figure out places that I can put some rolls in to make sure that it's spiced up. Do you see this note in between here where nothing is happening? Let's go ahead on and put 2 in there. Let's find something else in the second half. Let's go here. This last note that's over here, let's delete that and let's put 2 in here. We can even go up here, grab all of these notes, and we can go down here and randomize the velocities to where we kind of make the velocities kind of just shift a bit. So now let's do the same thing to our groove. We can go on and find certain notes to put some rolls into our groove. Do you remember our 2 that we laid down in the middle? Okay, let's go there. And let's grab one of these. We're going to delete that and we're going to draw a roll in there like that. Then we're going to take our velocities and we're going to angle them down like this. Let's go on and go to another one. Maybe this bottom one right here, we can zoom in and let's cut that one in half and then give ourselves more notes to work with. And we're going to draw in just like that. Then we're going to bring these velocities down just a bit, same way we did, angle them down. And now we have a longer roll here and we have a shorter roll here. Let's see how that works. Now we're starting to introduce a little bit of flair to our groove that we have. Let's do it one more time somewhere in the end right here. Randomly, let's go on and take this one right here. We're going to move it over like this. We're going to go on and chop it with Control E. And we're going to do our velocities down. Another longer roll. That's amazing. to now see what happens when we introduce a groove inside of a rhythm. So just keep that in mind when you're learning how to do this. Stay simple and make sure that you don't overcomplicate things simply because you hear the word rhythm or groove. If you make those things work in tandem with each other, you'll start to see that some simple things can now create some amazing complex things. We're still not done. We have one more thing to check out. That's the accent. Okay, so let's go to our orange track here. That's where we're going to put our accent. When we lay down the groove, we used in between our snares to do that. So the first two snares, we used this space in between. We're now going to look at our accents as just one snare. We're going to put something before the snare. We're going to put something before the snare. We're going to put something before the snare. That's going to be even more simple. Let's go ahead on and do it. I'll show you what I mean. Let's make sure that we can see our snare track, and then I'm going to hold control and make sure that I put my accent track in focus as well. Now I can draw in my accents while still looking at the snares. We're going to look at this as one snare, two snare, and we're going to put something before each one. We're going to mute our hi-hats. That way we don't hear that, and we can lay this down how it's supposed to go. Let's put one here right before that snare, and let's see what it does. Let's do here, and then we're gonna put one right close to the snare. See, we have this one a bit away from the snare, and then we have this one right close to the snare. Let's go. Wow. And then let's go back here. Let's see. And then we can now put one right at the end. Let's go ahead on and take that, and we're going to duplicate that over. So let's go ahead on and introduce everything one by one, and I'll show you how this works. Now let's put our groove in. And now let's join it up with our accents. Amazing what happens once you understand how simple these terms are: rhythm, groove, and accent. Now you can start taking those simple terms, join them together, and start doing some amazing things with them. And the beautiful part about it all is now you can bring in the rest of your drum sounds and check out what we have. There you guys have it, just a quick simple tutorial on how to take a complex thing and break it down into simple parts. That way you can kind of understand it a bit better. Remember, this is concept based, meaning that this you do not have to stick with. You can take this concept, apply it to what you're doing, tweak it, and conform it to whatever you are doing and however you want to shape this to fit your projects. This may take a bit of practice. Don't worry, that's what the rewind button is for. Watch this video as many times as you need to. That way you can lock into what's happening here. The more that you practice this, that's the more your understanding is going to grow for it, and that's the better you're going to do at it. As always, guys, if you got anything from this tutorial, or if you picked up anything that can be helpful to you, drop that comment below in the comment section. Let me know if you picked up what was done here with the 3 different things that we used. It also helps me to understand if I should make more of these small tutorials, if it helps you guys out. So drop that comment below if you got anything from this. Hit that thumbs up button as well. And also you make sure you hit that subscribe button. That way you can stay locked in for more of these that I have coming. If you want to get at me directly or send me a shout out, anything like that, Instagram is probably the best place to connect with me. Make sure you guys drop me a follow at the Drink Kang on IG. Shoot me a DM and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you got something from it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Purple World made that.